Welcome to another episode of the Mental Health Break podcast. Today I'm going to be talking to you about a new project that I'm so passionate about, and it's called the Happiness Project. And it's based on Gretchen Rubin's book called The Happiness Project. And the book is all about creating tiny little shifts in your month or in your year to see if you can increase the happiness in your life. And the reason that I got interested in this book is because I was going through some things, and in November I found this book in my bookshelf, and it talked about how Gretchen, at the time she started this project, is she was feeling like there's more she could do in her life to create more happiness. And every month she made little tiny changes, and her goal was to create more happiness without completely turning her life upside down. And so she made these tiny little changes every month incrementally, and to see if she could expand her comfort zone, change the way she's doing certain things, change her perspective, and create, basically, to see what was robbing her of the happiness, and then how can she create more happiness in her life. So anyway, that book gave me an idea to create my own happiness project. And as a mental health professional, I thought it would be a really interesting thing to see if I can actually have a say in whether I'm going to have a happier month or a happier day or a happier year. And I'm going to talk about, uh, every month we're going to have a different theme, and every theme will have something to do with expanding our comfort zone, with changing our perspective, and creating more happiness while we're at it. And so that's what this episode is about, and I'm just going to explain a little bit about what the theme is for this month, and how you can get started, and how you can join us in our private community and join the Happiness Project for 2026. So stay until the end, and I'll tell you how you can join our private community. So if you're new to this podcast, hi, I'm Dr. Nafisa Sikandri, and I'm the host for the Mental Health Break podcast. This podcast was actually created to provide you with simple, easy to use solutions for creating great mental and physical health. So if you want to create more mental peace, more mental clarity, and more mental calm, then you're at the right place. Let's get started. So last year was, like I mentioned, a very difficult year for me in many different ways. I had some health challenges, and the year just took me on a roller coaster ride. So that led me to take some time off from the podcast, and I didn't have any episodes, I don't believe, last year. But I'm starting again. So needless to say, after all of that, I found myself stressed, I found myself overwhelmed, and I found myself fatigued most of the year, which is why I'm so determined to focus on my overall health, mental and physical, and overall happiness in 2026. So as I mentioned earlier, for the Happiness Project, I'll be focusing on a different theme each month, and focusing on areas that will create the most happiness and positive mental health, and hopefully creating a cumulative effect that will build over the year. We've already started the happiness journey inside the private community for January, and the theme for this month is creating positive energy on the physical, mental, and emotional levels. So January is typically a reset month for a lot of people, but I want to make sure that it's not a pressure-filled month. And the last thing we want is to add more stress and more pressure, especially at the start of the new year. So let's just remember that January isn't about adding more, it's about removing what's draining you. And also understanding that with awareness, we can accomplish way more than just focusing on getting a lot done and being achievement oriented, which I think of being achievement oriented is great, but we also want to do it with intention and not just spinning our wheels and hoping to get a lot done, which is adding more stress and creating more stress in our lives. And a lot of people start off the new year with so much expectation that it actually creates more anxiety, more mental clutter, and then also this sense of feeling like you're already behind before the day even starts or before the year even gets started, right? And then for a lot of people that celebrate Christmas and Thanksgiving and New Year, you're carrying over a lot of stress from the previous year, from the holidays, into the new year. So we don't want to do that. I want to make sure that we're removing a lot of things that are actually sucking the energy out of you and making you feel more depleted, and adding things that are actually going to make you feel recharged and renewed, and making you feel more energetic and more clear-headed. And so that's what I wanted to do. So, to start with, I want to distinguish between goals and resolutions because at the beginning of the year, we're so focused on setting as many goals as possible and having New Year resolutions. But for a lot of people, they end up abandoning all of it by the middle of January, right? And I don't want us to do that. That's why for this happiness project, I want it to be a 12-month experience where we support each other and cheer each other on month after month inside the community and also here through the podcast on how we can make the year the best year possible, because there's so much that's happening outside of us that we have no control over, but we can change our reaction. We can make micro incremental changes in our lives that change our perspective and hopefully create a happier, more resilient, more productive year for us. So I want to start off by distinguishing between goals and resolutions. And since this project is based on Gretchen Rubin's original book, The Happiness Project, I want to use her distinction between her definition between what goals are and what resolutions are, which is ultimately the difference between duration and measurability. So for Gretchen, goals are quantifiable and have an end date, and they're also specific achievements with a clear finish line or a set of milestones associated with it, and they're measurable. But once a goal is met, then it's complete. So, for example, you have a goal to train for and run a marathon, but once you finish that marathon, you have to move on to a new goal. It's just done. It's just you've done it. Or finishing a specific report. Where resolutions, they're ongoing, they're open ended lifestyle changes or habits. And before, I used to prefer goals over resolutions because I felt like resolutions were so iffy. And it's like, yeah, I want to have a better year, but it's not very specific. But I like the concept of the open ended lifestyle part of the resolutions. And there is no finish line. They require continuous effort and they require a permanent part of our life. So you're literally making lifestyle changes. For example, quitting smoking or exercising regularly or being more cheerful. These are behaviors that you commit to for a long term. And they're not going to be perfect. You might mess up, you might give up, but you can just get started and go back and start all over again or pick up where you left off. That's what I like about it. Gretchen also notes that while striving towards a goal provides a sense of growth, the open ended nature of resolutions means that each day is a clean slate, and it's a new opportunity for us to live up to that commitment without feeling the discouragement that might come from failing to meet a specific or a time bound goal. I hope that makes sense. So, some people might view resolutions as a rigid, all or nothing, identity based, such as I will never do this again, or this is what I must do. But because of that rigid mindset, this is why many people give them up by the middle of January. And so I like the ongoing version that Gretchen talks about when it comes to resolutions. Some of my own personal goals or resolutions that I set for myself can be open-ended and may even take me 5 or 10 years to accomplish because they are open-ended and there is no term limit on them. And sometimes certain goals take longer to accomplish than others, or certain resolutions take longer to accomplish than others. So I love outcome-based goals as well, but only for things that I have the ability to measure and control the outcome of. But goals can be limited because they don't address the emotional blocks that could come up or the subconscious resistance that might impact those goals. And sometimes these emotional blocks can actually sabotage our success with the whatever goal that we set for ourselves. So for the community that we're doing, we start off with a baseline because I want to know where we are right now. Where are we starting from? Where is our mood? What's our mood like? What's our lifestyle like? What's our diet like? So we can get an idea of where we are so that we can measure that 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now, 12 months from now to see if we actually made progress. And that baseline is really important because that's going to determine whether we've actually succeeded with this project of trying to create more happiness in 2026. And we'll be revisiting that obviously in December of 2026 to see if anything's changed. And so all of that's happening inside the private community. And this private community is away from Facebook, from Instagram, and it's completely private. You can be completely anonymous in it if you want to be, but it is a place where we can all and come together so that we can support each other, we can hold each other accountable, and we can have fun doing it. And also, without a baseline, we can't measure what we don't have an awareness of. So if you don't know where you started, like if I want to lose weight, but I don't know what my starting weight is, I'm not going to know how much weight I've lost. I'm not going to know if I don't know what my muscle mass is versus my fat level. I'm not going to know if I've gained muscle, if I've gained fat. So the baseline gives us those little details so that we know whether we've made any kind of progress or not. And that removes the judgment out of it and makes it very objective so that we're focusing on data instead of beating ourselves up for not doing it right and not getting it done the right way. Another thing that I want to focus on, and the massive theme for January, is, like I said, creating positive energy and removing energy blocks from our life. And one of the ways that we can do that, because our home has energy, people we meet have energy. There are certain places that we go into that we feel like, oh, I don't like this place. There's something about it that doesn't feel good. Or we might meet certain people and we're like, we just don't like that person. There's something about them. We call it vibe. We can call it, I don't like that vibe. I don't like the person's vibe. I don't like this place's vibe. But that vibe is energy. And so it starts with like decluttering and finding a space, at least one space in your house that you can declutter. So it doesn't have to be the closet. It could be a drawer in your kitchen. It could be a space on your desk. It could be anything that gives you some mental calmness when you're in that space. So when I go into my closet in the morning, I want it to be I don't want to have decision fatigue. I don't want to have to figure out, okay, where are my clothes at? What am I wearing? What am I doing? So simplifying that process is really important. Simplifying our outfits. This is why a lot of rich people, a lot of highly achieving, successful people, they wear the same outfit, the same clothes, almost like a uniform. So a lot of women, they just have a certain suit, like they wear the same colors every single time. They wear the same outfits, the same shoes, the same skirts, tops. Maybe they're not the same, but they're the same genre, the same style, so that they don't have to think too hard in the morning when they're getting ready. I was recently watching a Netflix episode with Simon Cowell, where his wife talks about how he orders 50 black t-shirts at a time. I don't know why you would need 50 black t-shirts, but I guess he doesn't, I don't know what he does with them, but he buys them in bulk and he wears the same t-shirt every single time. His closet's just filled with black t-shirts. Steve Jobs does the same thing. Mark Zuckerberg. You see these people, these billionaires, they look homeless because they're wearing these bland colors, simple styles, because it just makes it just makes it one less thing they have to make a decision about. So, and also for a lot of people, their morning anxiety is related to visual overwhelms. They go into their closet, they're like, I have so many things to choose from. I don't know what to choose. So have you noticed that we always pick the same 5 outfits anyway? So why not simplify that? Maybe declutter, get rid of some of the clothes you never wear, but put all the things that you normally do wear together in one section. So just go directly there and you make a decision and get on with your day. Another thing that cluttered spaces do is they hold stagnant energy. So when you come in and there's a lot of papers on your desk, or there's a lot of clothes on the floor, or there's a lot of clothes in your closet, it just feels like stagnant energy. So what you can do is declutter and organize things so that you can have energy moving around. And this is the concept of feng shui. So feng shui is all about creating spaces so that the energy flows freely throughout your house. Whether you believe in all that or not, you know when you walk into a building, there's a sense of calm or chaos. We're reacting to this stuff on a regular basis, whether we believe in it or not, right? So if it makes you feel better to organize a space in your closet or in your office or in your house, try it and see if that makes a difference for you. And then also donating clothes can create more energy, more space for better things to flow into your life as well. Clearing clutter isn't just physical, it just mirrors how your brain releases stored stress. So if you're looking at stress, it's just symbolic of what's going on inside of your brain. But what I also want to focus on is not just physical energy, or physical decluttering, but also mental decluttering. And that involves what you're feeding your mind. And it's about what are you consuming? What are you paying attention to? What are you watching? So if you're watching a lot of horror and violence and watching the news, then your body is reacting to that. It's creating stress, it's releasing cortisol in your system. So making sure at the minimum to not start your day with negative news. Because I got to tell you, that's not going to change. Nothing is going to change when it comes to the news for where it becomes positive. When it comes to the news, what sells is more eyeballs on the TV, and what keeps eyeballs on the TV is more bad news. So, in terms like there's a term in the newspaper where if it bleeds, it leads. So, if there was like negative information, you put that on the front page of the newspaper because that's what's going to keep people's attention, and that's become the thing with news, with online, with the media as well. When you're watching the news online or on TV, nothing's going to be positive, so might as well turn it off and watch some headlines if you really need to know what's going on, or read some headlines quickly without getting sucked into that whole ups and downs of whatever's happening with the news, knowing every little negative detail, because it's not going to change. And I tell myself, if the world was going to end, I'm going to find out one way or another. I don't need to be glued to the TV to find out. Another thing that I find myself getting caught up in is gossip, celebrity gossip, family gossip, friendship gossip, whatever. And it's so bad for us. It drains our energy. It makes us not like people very much. It makes us be negative about our day, about our own life, or makes us feel like we're comparing ourselves to other people. So getting rid of that out of your life if you can is really important, because all of this has a cost on our nervous system, right? If our nervous system is constantly on high alert and it's constantly in stress mode, we can't relax. And if we're not relaxing, we're not going to be happy. So that's why I chose energy as the first theme for the new year, for us to figure out where is our energy leaking, where are we focusing our negative energy on, and how can we change that to focus on more positive things and not allow it to overwhelm or overburden us, so that we're not feeling hypervigilant, we don't have morning anxiety, we don't have just this angst all over us. And for me personally, that involves just not starting my day off with YouTube shorts or getting news from YouTube or going online and reading headlines. Just completely stop all that and just having my slow mornings and not even focus on anything technical or electronic until I've had my breakfast, or until after I've worked out, or until I've had other, um, just like I said, a calming morning. So just remember that whatever you're giving your attention to, it will grow. So if you're if your attention is going towards negatives, you're going to see more negative. And that's how algorithms work too, right? So let's say you're really focused on politics and the negative side of politics. The more political videos you watch, the more political videos you're going to get in your algorithm. I've gotten into watching a lot of dogs and puppies and cat videos because that calms me, or watching nature videos, or just make sure I add those to my algorithm so that I'm seeing more of that instead of all the negative stuff. So that's something that you can change. You can literally change your algorithm by doing those things, but you can also change your brain by focusing on what's positive as opposed to what's negative. So for January, our theme is energy. So it's mental, physical, and emotional energy. So clearing space, whether that's mental or physical, like reducing clutter, reducing the noise, creating calm, and then reflecting on what would change if you remove just one thing that drains you, and focusing on making tiny little shifts in your day to see if that's making a difference in your overall happiness. And if you would like to join us for the Happiness Project, I would love to see you inside our private community. So you can either click the link below, or you can visit drsecandary.com/happiness-project and sign up today. We will have a live call next week inside of our private community, so be sure to join us and join us in the live monthly calls. There's no obligation for you to stay, so I want you to try it for a month. We've made the cost really low. It's only $10 a month. And if you say it's not something I like, I don't want to do it, there's no obligation for you to continue, and you can cancel anytime. I just want to make sure that everybody has a chance to be part of this experience and for all of us to kind of help ourselves get through 2026 together. And also make sure to follow and subscribe to this podcast because in the next episode, I'll be giving you an update about the progress I've been making this month. And I would hope that you would share this podcast with anybody else that would like to know more about the Happiness Project and anyone you think might want to make their 2026 the happiest year yet. So until next time.